Bernard Hopkins Jr., born on January 15, 1965, carved out a legacy that stands tall in the annals of professional boxing. With a career spanning nearly 3 decades, from 1988 to 2016, Hopkins is celebrated as one of the sport's most accomplished and enduring champions. Known for his tactical brilliance, unshakable resilience, and ability to defy age, he held multiple world titles across 2 weight classes and left an indelible mark on the boxing world. Hopkins first tasted championship glory in 1995 when he claimed the IBF middleweight title. Over the next decade, he dominated the division, making 20 successful title defenses. His crowning achievement came in 2001 when he unified the middleweight division by defeating Felix Trinidad, securing the WBA, WBC, Ring Magazine, and Lineal titles. 3 years later, his victory over Oscar de la Hoya added the WBO title, making Hopkins the first male boxer to simultaneously hold all 4 major boxing belts. Nicknamed the Executioner for his relentless pursuit of victory and later adopting the moniker the Alien to symbolize his unparalleled longevity, Hopkins continued to rewrite history. At 41, he claimed the light heavyweight crown by defeating Antonio Tarver and later broke records as the oldest boxer to win a world championship. First at 46, then again at 48 and 49. Renowned for his strategic brilliance, Hopkins was a master of defensive boxing and counterpunching, able to adapt to any challenge in the ring. Even in the twilight of his career, he remained a force to be reckoned with, earning accolades and respect from fans and critics alike. Beyond the ring, Hopkins transitioned seamlessly into a leadership role as a partner in Golden Boy Promotions, further cementing his influence in the boxing world. From humble beginnings to becoming a global icon, Bernard Hopkins' story is a testament to grit, intelligence, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. Bernard Hopkins' journey began in the Raymond Rosen housing projects of Philadelphia, where he lived with his parents, Bernard Sr. and Shirley. Even as a young boy, his talent for boxing was evident. He won the Philadelphia Junior Golden Gloves Championship at just 9 years old and built an impressive amateur record of 95-4. However, life took a dark turn during his teenage years. By 13, Hopkins was involved in street crime, committing muggings, and surviving 3 stabbings. At 17, he was sentenced to 18 years in Graterford Prison after being convicted of 9 felonies. Prison life was harsh. Hopkins witnessed the brutal murder of an inmate over something as trivial as a pack of cigarettes. Yet, amidst the chaos, he found a way to turn his life around. He rediscovered his love for boxing. After serving nearly 5 years, Hopkins was released in 1988. On his way out, the prison warden predicted he'd be back, but Hopkins made a firm declaration. "I ain't ever coming back here." True to his word, he never looked back. He embraced boxing as his way forward, converted to Islam, and began to channel his energy into building a new life. Hopkins often credited his discipline and determination to the lessons he learned during those years in Graterford Prison. His story is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of places, it's possible to find hope and create a path to greatness. Bernard Hopkins stepped into the professional boxing world as a light heavyweight, but his journey didn't begin with triumph. On October 11, 1988, in Atlantic City, he faced Clinton Mitchell and suffered a loss in his debut. After a 16-month break, Hopkins returned to the ring, this time as a middleweight. His comeback fight on February 22, 1990, at the Blue Horizon saw him claim a unanimous decision victory over Greg Page, setting the stage for an incredible run. Between 1990 and 1992, Hopkins was unstoppable. He racked up 21 straight wins, 16 by knockout, with 12 of those coming in the very first round. His reputation as a force in the middleweight division grew rapidly, leading to a clash with Roy Jones Jr. on May 22, 1993, for the vacant IBF middleweight title. Although Hopkins fought valiantly, Jones outpointed him, earning a unanimous decision with all 3 judges scoring the fight 116-112. Later that year, Hopkins faced Segundo Mercado in Quito, Ecuador, for another shot at the IBF title. Fighting at an altitude of nearly 10,000 feet, Hopkins struggled early, getting knocked down twice before rallying late to earn a split draw. Despite the setback, Hopkins showed resilience, and the IBF ordered an immediate rematch. On April 29, 1995, Hopkins claimed his first world title, defeating Mercado via a seventh-round technical knockout in Landover, Maryland. His first title defense was nothing short of spectacular. He stopped Steve Frank in just 24 seconds. By the end of 2000, Hopkins had defended the IBF title 12 times without a loss, defeating notable opponents like John David Jackson, Glenn Johnson, then undefeated Simon Brown, and Antoine Eccles. In 2001, a historic middleweight unification tournament brought the division's best together. Hopkins, the reigning IBF champion, faced WBC champion Keith Holmes on April 14, 2001, in New York City and secured a unanimous decision victory. Meanwhile, Felix Trinidad, a former welterweight and light middleweight champion, stunned fans with a dominant knockout of William Joppy in just 5 rounds. Many believed Trinidad's power and strength would be too much for Hopkins, setting the stage for one of the most anticipated showdowns in middleweight history. Bernard Hopkins' journey in professional boxing began in 1988 as a light heavyweight, but his debut didn't go as planned. Facing Clinton Mitchell on October 11, 1988, in Atlantic City, Hopkins lost. Determined to bounce back, he took a 16-month break, returned as a middleweight, and started fresh with a unanimous decision win over Greg Page on February 22, 1990, at the iconic Blue Horizon. From 1990 to 1992, Hopkins was unstoppable. He amassed 21 straight victories, 16 by knockout, with 12 of those knockouts happening in the very first round. His dominance led him to a major opportunity, a clash with Roy Jones Jr. on May 22, 1993, for the vacant IBF middleweight title. Though Hopkins fought hard, Jones outpointed him, earning a unanimous decision. Later that year, Hopkins faced Segundo Mercado in Ecuador for another shot at the IBF title. Battling at an altitude of nearly 10,000 feet, Hopkins was knocked down twice, but rallied to earn a split draw. Despite the setback, his resilience shone through, and the IBF ordered an immediate rematch. On April 29, 1995, Hopkins captured his first world title with a 7th-round TKO over Mercado in Maryland. Hopkins quickly made his mark as a champion. In his first title defense, he stopped Steve Frank in just 24 seconds. By 2000, he had defended his IBF title 12 times without a loss, defeating top names like John David Jackson, Glenn Johnson, and Antoine Eccles. In 2001, a historic unification tournament brought the best middleweight champions together. Hopkins, as the IBF title holder, faced WBC champion Keith Holmes on April 14th and won by unanimous decision. Meanwhile, Felix Trinidad, a former welterweight and light middleweight champion, made waves by knocking out William Joppy in 5 rounds, creating a buzz that Trinidad was too powerful for Hopkins. On September 29, 2001, Hopkins and Trinidad faced off at Madison Square Garden for the Undisputed Middleweight Championship. The fight was originally scheduled for September 15th, but was postponed due to the 9/11 attacks. For the first time in years, Hopkins was the underdog, but he boldly bet $100,000 on himself to win. Leading up to the fight, Hopkins caused controversy by throwing the Puerto Rican flag on the ground during press conferences, sparking a riot in Puerto Rico. In the ring, Hopkins silenced his doubters. He dominated the fight, and in the 12th round, floored Trinidad to seal a TKO victory. The win not only handed Trinidad his first career loss, but also made Hopkins the first undisputed middleweight champion since Marvin Hagler in 1987. Hopkins was named the 2001 Fighter of the Year by the Ring magazine and the World Boxing Hall of Fame. Hopkins went on to defend his undisputed title 6 more times, surpassing Carlos Monzon's record of 14 defenses. His career highlight came in 2004 when he faced Oscar de la Hoya in the highest-paying fight of his career. Hopkins stopped de la Hoya in the 9th round with a body shot, becoming the first boxer to unify the titles of all 4 major sanctioning bodies. At 40, an age when most boxers retire, Hopkins reached a record 19 consecutive title defenses. In 2005, he lost his title to Jermaine Taylor in a close split decision, and their rematch later that year also ended in a decision loss. Despite the setbacks, Hopkins had already cemented his legacy as one of boxing's greatest champions. After two tough losses to Jermaine Taylor, Bernard Hopkins, at the age of 41, made a bold decision. He wasn't ready to hang up his gloves. Instead, he jumped 2 weight classes to take on Antonio Tarver, the ring light heavyweight champion, on June 10, 2006. Tarver, a 3-1 favorite and the first man to stop Roy Jones Jr., was riding high as one of boxing's elite. But Hopkins proved the doubters wrong, dominating the fight and securing a lopsided unanimous decision with all 3 judges scoring at 118-109 in his favor. Tarver also lost a $250,000 bet to Hopkins after failing to stop him in the first 6 rounds. Hopkins wasn't done making statements, though. On July 21, 2007, he defended his light heavyweight title against former junior middleweight champion Winky Wright in Las Vegas. Tensions boiled over at the weigh-in when Hopkins shoved Wright, sparking a brawl between their teams. Although fined $200,000 for the incident, Hopkins let his fists do the talking in the ring, winning a unanimous decision with scores of 117-111, 117-111, and 116-112. On April 19, 2008, Hopkins faced Joe Calzaghe in a highly anticipated showdown. Hopkins started strong, dropping Calzaghe in the first round and using his experience to frustrate the challenger. But Calzaghe adjusted, using his speed and relentless output to earn a split decision win and take Hopkins' light heavyweight title. Despite the loss, Hopkins showed he wasn't finished yet. Later that year, on October 18th, Hopkins took on the undefeated Kelly Pavlik in a non-title fight at 170 pounds. Many believed Pavlik's power would overwhelm Hopkins, but the veteran turned back the clock with a masterful performance, earning a dominant unanimous decision with scores of 117-109, 119-106, and 118-108. Hopkins called it the best fight of his career, proving once again why he was a legend in the sport. In December 2009, Hopkins returned to his hometown of Philadelphia for the first time in years, defeating Enrique Ornelas in a tune-up fight by unanimous decision. This was supposed to prepare him for a March 2010 rematch with Roy Jones Jr., but the fight was postponed after Jones suffered a shocking first-round TKO loss to Danny Green. The rematch finally happened on April 3, 2010, 17 years after their first bout. Hopkins defeated Jones by unanimous decision in a scrappy fight filled with fouls and drama, with scores of 117-110, 118-109, and 119-108. Hopkins then set his sights on big names, challenging WBA heavyweight champion David Haye and expressing interest in facing Lucian Bute after Bute's impressive TKO win over Edison Miranda. Hopkins continued to cement his status as a fearless competitor willing to face anyone at any time. He argued that the sport had shifted focus from skill and technique to more crowd-pleasing, action-heavy fights. Hopkins stated, "If fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard or Sugar Ray Robinson were boxing today, their slick style would be considered boring. They fed fans this idea that slick, smart boxing isn't exciting. To me, it feels like erasing a culture, a style that has dominated for generations." And yes, I'm talking about black fighters. I said it. Hopkins' outspoken nature and bold opinions often sparked debate, but they also showcased his deep connection to the sport and its history.